I remember my father and grandfather taking their old dog Gus, going out west and hunting pheasants.
Mm-hmm.
They missed being able to hunt them right here because we used to have wild birds right in the area. They were out there and heard that many of those birds are raised by the state and put out for people to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just wild birds.
Right.
Well, here we are with 600 acres of land that's not being farmed anymore. So we decided, let's put some birds out there.
Welcome to Legacy Conversations, recorded right here at the barn on Collimer Road. I'm your host, Mark Modulewski. Our mission, to educate, inspire, and entertain. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. Jason Acee, welcome to Legacy Conversations.
Well, thank you for having me here today, Mark.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad you made it.
It was a little bit of a drive to get out here.
Oh, yeah.
A few cops along the road, but we made it safe and sound. The puppy's got food and water in the truck, and she's good to go.
Awesome. Well, just for the folks who are listening, tell me, when did you and I first meet? If you were to think back, because I think I met your dad first, Ron, and then I spent, I think, probably the most time with your brother, Jared. But when did I actually meet you?
I'm not sure how many years you've been coming around. If I had to throw out a random guess, it would be 5 to 7 years that you've been coming around, if not more than that. For the past 20 years, I've had a day job and a career that I was building while raising children. Mm-hmm. But I was always involved with the business from day one, getting it started and helping on the weekends. So we probably met at most weekend outing kind of things.
Something like that, yeah.
Flurry shoots in the middle of the winter and little events like that. So I've always been kind of a side piece to the business.
Yeah.
Helping on the weekends, not really being completely involved, just there to help out and enjoy it.
Yeah. So we'll kind of go down that road so everybody knows, and then we'll kind of back up. So you and your family, your dad, your stepmother-in-law, Darcy, which is hilarious, or stepmother, which is hilarious to say that, and then your brother Jared are involved in Vernon National Shooting Preserve, which is an outdoor sportsman's kind of haven over in Vernon, right? Where we have a firearms store, and we have sporting clays and trap and 5-stand. We do pheasants, lessons, etc. It's a cool place. So that's the family business we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And like you said, you didn't start in the family business. You've been around the hunting culture and the firearm culture forever because your dad started this Vernon National Shooting Preserve, and we'll get into that in a second. But for the last 20 years, you had a job where you sat behind the counter or sat behind a computer and kind of did, work per se. And then you transitioned to now be full-time at the preserve. What made that happen? Why did that happen?
Well, I think it was always a dream of being there full-time, working there on the weekends, enjoying it, something I'm passionate about. I'm a certified instructor, so going out and giving shooting lessons, that isn't work to me.
Yeah.
It's something I enjoy. I think the big transitional point was my children getting older and being either moved out or self-sufficient at this point.
Yeah.
Financially, it might have been a bit of a challenge and may still be for a little while, but happiness was the most important thing to me in this equation. Working with my father, working with my brother, Darcy, my stepmother, it's been much more enjoyable than just sitting at a desk in an office, in my little office with the door closed and
grinding away on an email.
Conference calls, Zoom all day long. And, I spent 20 years in the retirement business, and it took good care of me, but it wasn't a passion.
Yeah.
This shooting business, hunting, the selling of firearms and making sure somebody gets the item that they really should have rather than them walking into a box store and buying whatever they hand them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm very passionate about it, making sure people enjoy what we have to offer.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the history, right? So Grandpa, who I had the honor to know for several years, used to deal in cows and farms and used to sell heifers and all that type of stuff. Dad was a farmer as he grew up, Ron. How did Vernon National Shooting Preserve start?
I think we all kind of have our own memories on it, but I remember my father and grandfather taking their old dog Gus, going out west and hunting pheasants. they missed being able to hunt them right here because we used to have wild birds right in the area. They were out there and heard that many of those birds are raised by the state and put out for people to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just wild birds.
Right.
Well, here we are with 600 acres of land that's not being farmed anymore. So we decided, let's put some birds out there. And we started selling hunting ourselves because we enjoy it ourselves.
Sure.
The next step was sporting clays. We used to go to a lot of local places. It got harder and harder to get in there, especially my father was still an active farmer at this time.
Yeah.
His time was limited. It was rainy days.
Right.
So he bought some equipment so my brothers and myself could shoot and hunt right there. And next thing you know, we had a lot of new friends.
Yeah.
And they would be bringing their friends, and we just all of a sudden had a business going.
Right.
My father, being so busy at the time, offered it to me and my brother. And we were kind of running a 5-stand league a couple nights a week. And again, it just kept continuing to grow.
Yeah.
And finally, it came to a point where my father decided to make it a real legit business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's pretty interesting. So, like, I probably met Dad, like you said, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And the way that I got into the preserve is I went on a bachelor party, and we were at a bachelor party in South Carolina, and we said, what are we going to do one of these days? And we decided to go do sporting clays. And I had been exposed to hunting through my father a little bit, and always had a curiosity around firearms and shooting, but never really had the opportunity, right, to do it. So after I come back from this party, we went and we did a sporting clay thing, and I liked it. I was no good at it. I was awful at it, right? But I loved it. So I came back and I just kind of put into Google, like, where can I shoot sporting clays? And I had called a place, and then all of a sudden I called the number that was on the website, and it was Dad's cell phone. It was Ron's cell phone. And I said, I'd love to stop by. I've got a golf tournament up here. I'd like to swing by and kind of meet you. And he goes, yeah, swing by anytime. And here, the first time I ever met Ron Acee was in the parking lot of the preserve over there in Vernon. And we became fast friends, and I started to shoot a lot, and I bought a gun, and he gave me some lessons, and we started, it just started. And from them, I think we've developed a pretty good relationship with the family, but the preserve has grown, right? It started with a handful of people shooting trap in a field, one evening, and then some people saying, let's buy a handful of these traps so we can shoot 5-stand, to grown into what it is now. So help me break down what the preserve does now. Give me the shooting sports, for example. What shooting sports do you have?
Yeah, so you go back to, like you said, we had just a little small operation, kind of a personal setup with some friends coming along. At present day, we have, I believe, over about 100 traps, and these are the clay throwers that actually throw the target for you to shoot. Mostly Promatics, some Laportes, and a few others, but over 100 traps spread across the property. So there's 2 sporting clays courses, each with 16 stations. You have a traditional trap field, a 5-stand field, and a wobble deck. On top of that, there's also a rifle and a pistol range that are open to our members and public. The other option is the hunting, but that's getting away from the sporting clays
shooting
part
clays,
of it.
yeah.
The sporting clays, that's the items that we have. But on top of that, as mentioned, we're doing shooting lessons for anybody interested. We're holding NSCA registered events. I think our best option is the corporate outings that we do.
Yeah.
Whether it be a corporate outing for employees, clientele, or maybe it's even a bachelor party or something of that nature.
Right.
People coming in and going out as a group. And I think everybody's favorite is our steak dinners.
Yeah, no doubt.
After you get done with your shooting, you go over, you cook your own steak on our big grills,
Yeah.
and we provide all the fixings to go with it.
Yeah. So if there's 2 things I want to unpack there. One is I don't have to be a member, right?
Correct.
If I wanted to go shoot sporting clays or wanted to get into it, I can stop in at normal business hours and somebody can help me go through that. If I'm a member, I get some discounts, and I also have access to the range kind of like sun up to sundown for the most part.
Yeah, that's
You
probably
go
our
through-
biggest selling point on memberships is unlimited access.
Right.
You get a plastic card because everything is run by electronics.
Yep.
and you just come and go as you please. And that was something very important to us in the very beginning. As I mentioned, we couldn't go shoot at the local clubs except one day a week.
Right.
So if that wasn't the day we could shoot, we couldn't go. So we
Right.
wanted to make this available to people when it's convenient to them.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I loved as I got there. I got my little card. I had my membership, and then if it was Sunday at 4 o'clock and the pro shop's closed, right, or if it's Monday afternoon during the summer and no one's around because people are off, I can just go to one of the stations, put my card in, choose 2 or 3 different ways that the targets are going to come out, and I can shoot to my heart's desire, right? Because I buy these clays. I prepay these clays on my target, which is cool, right? And it's different than some of the other clubs around. There's not a lot of clubs in the Syracuse, Utica area that allow you to do that. There's other shooting clubs, but often you have to go at a prescribed time.
Most of the local clubs are typically fishing game clubs, member run, nonprofit organizations that maybe one night a week you can shoot pistols, one night a week you can shoot sporting clays, one night a week that might have skeet.
Right.
And that's it. That's the days you go. And yes, their prices tend to be a little bit cheaper because they don't have staff. They have
Right.
members. So you're obligated to go and help out.
Right.
Work days, cleanup days,
Yeah.
fixing things.
Yeah.
So that was something else we wanted to avoid and go with a private business
Yeah.
where we make the decisions as a family. Well, I should say my father makes all the decisions. We do what he asks.
Yeah.
And we have a set number of hours where people can come and go, and
Yeah.
for the public or anybody that wants to shoot.
Yeah, which is cool. So I show up there and talking about shooting sports for a second. I show up there. I've never shot before, or I'm a seasoned shooter. I can go in during business hours. I can talk to somebody at the desk. I can purchase ammo to shoot there. I can purchase targets. I can purchase a golf cart if I don't want to, or rent a golf cart if I don't want to walk around. I've got 2 courses. Each course has like a harder and an easier setting. Plus, the system allows you to manipulate it the way you want. So if you just want to throw one target and break it, and then one target and break it, and one target and break it, you can do that. There's lots of different things you can do, which is pretty unique and kind of cool. But I can also come in as a new shooter, and I can ask for help. I can be like, I haven't shot very much, and we'll go out there and help those folks, right?
One of our biggest things is making sure everybody stays safe.
Absolutely.
For our, there's rules for everybody. If somebody shot a lot, here's your card. If they're new to the club, I'll go out and get them started, show them how to use our card system, and send them on their way. Mm-hmm. Anybody that is new to the sport and needs some help, whether it is our safety guides or one of our instructors that is certified, we want to help them because, one, let's keep them safe, keep everybody around them safe. But if they go out on their own to try to learn, they may get frustrated and never want to do it again.
Yeah.
So we want those customers to come back. We want them to have a good time. So we want to be out there helping them.
Yeah, because everybody has fun breaking targets, right?
Yeah, if you miss all day, it's no fun.
It's no fun. Nobody's coming back.
Yeah, if you're chasing a golf ball in the woods all day, you're not going to
fun.
finish.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's been described a little bit as golf with a shotgun, right?
Absolutely.
Each hole's a little different. Each station's a little different. The different presentations. And while it may seem simple, there's different techniques to break different targets. And like anything else, the more you get into it, the club has the ability to cater to the occasional once-a-year shooter or to somebody who wants to travel around and do the state shoot, right?
Correct.
So not only do we have lessons, but we have a full pro shop, which we'll talk about here in a second. So I've got these two. I've got trap and skeet and 5-stand and sporting clays, which most of the public think are all the exact same thing. And you and I know that they're very different, right? So sporting clays, for somebody who's never done it, what is sporting clays specifically?
So unlike trap and skeet of the old days, no matter where you go across this country, everything's measured. No matter where you shoot trap or skeet, it's always going to be the same. The only difference is the people you're shooting with in the background. Mm-hmm. When it comes to sporting clays, as we mentioned, it's like golf that every course you go to is going to be different. It depends on the lay of the land that they have. It depends on who's setting the pins, or in this case, changing the target flight.
Yeah.
So each of our machines, we can twist, turn, and make the targets fly in different directions.
Yeah.
So most sporting clays courses will consist of anywhere from 7 to 20 different stations. 15, 16 is usually a good number, where you'll go station to station. Each one will have 2 to 3 targets to be presented to you,
Yep.
and you will shoot a certain number of targets at each station. And each station is going to be different. The first station, you might have 2 targets that are coming right at you. The next station, they might be going away or crossing, or even we have targets called rabbits that are running on the ground.
Yeah.
So no matter where you go,
Yep.
and even if you come back to us a few weeks later, you're going to see different targets all
Different
the time.
presentation. Yeah. So sporting clays to me was always fun because it was different, right? Trap, people love trap, but you got 5 stations. The trap house is in front of you. It either goes directly out, it wobbles. You hit first station, then second station, then third station, then fourth station. And to your point, the scenery looks different, but trap at Vernon or in South Dakota or in the South is the same. And skeet is the same thing. High house, low house. There's a little semicircle. 5 stands in a row. Different targets that are out there. There's some prescription. But sporting clay changes. Every station's a little bit different, which is kind of neat. So if you're what we have there at Vernon, I say we, but because I'm a member of the club, right? Is you have this wobble deck to learn where you can walk up on a deck and there's a little trap below you and it shoots a bunch of targets and you can just learn in a pretty relaxed environment.
Yes, it's a nice spot to do training with somebody that's never handled a gun. Safe, away from everybody else. You don't have the stress of somebody else watching you, just you and your instructor. We can set it from extremely easy straight target, or we can have the machine that's kind of moving left and right, up and down. So it's a nice little view over a pond. So you can get up there, teach somebody the fundamentals of, sometimes it's starting right out with how to hold the gun.
Right.
I've encountered some shooters that they're afraid of the gun at the first
Right.
point. So right then and there, it's, hey, just see that leaf over there on the tree? Just shoot the gun.
Right.
Let's get comfortable with the gun, and then let's work with a target.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's important. There are people who get intimidated, who don't have the confidence, and there's also those folks who are overly confident, right? Who think they know it,
Yep.
and both of it is a challenge, right? Because you want both people to go out there, have fun, and be safe, right? Which I think is cool.
You definitely get typically a guy that maybe hunted a few times in his life, and he's handled guns a few times, and he knows exactly what he's doing, but typically they have a lot to learn about
Yeah.
sporting clays. Sporting clays actually kind of started as a hunting practice kind of game.
Right.
It really wasn't a competitive sport in the beginning. It started out, let's imitate bird flights.
Right.
Let's throw targets between trees as though you were hunting
Right.
wild birds behind a dog or something. And then it has morphed into a competitive sport,
Right.
possibly going to make it to the Olympics at some point in time.
Right. Which is cool. It's fun. So we've got this idea of clay shooting, which is pretty cool. You've got the 2 sporting clay places. There's a whole bunch that goes in. We'll have to do a whole other podcast on gauges and all that other type of thing. And then you have the trap and you have the 5 stand. And then we talked about the pistol and rifle range. So the rifle range is there during the summer for folks to come who have joined the rifle range and they're able to ping targets. Tell me about the range, how it's set up.
So the rifle range, as you mentioned, is kind of a summer activity at our club because of our pheasant hunting is in that area. And for safety concerns, again, our hunters can come and go as they please. So we have to shut that down for safety. But the rifle range, we have a open pavilion with multiple benches set up for anybody to shoot from. At that point, it goes out to 600 yards, which is a selling point for us. Most local clubs might be 100 yards or 200 yards. At about every 100 yards, we have a berm with multiple steel targets. So a guy can set up something at 50 to 100 yards for paper just to dial his gun in. But then at that point, he can start working on longer range.
Right.
And someone like yourself that likes to travel and hunt somewheres where you're going to be shooting longer distance, it's definitely a plus.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, right? Because you can show up there. First, there's steel that's already there, so you don't have to run around and necessarily pick up your targets. You can plink targets all the way out to 600 yards, and you have smaller and bigger targets. But it gives somebody who wants to go to have a safe place to shoot and people who are friendly to hunters and friendly to people who want to do that, it gives you a place to go. And then if you go around the corner and you go up the hill, we've got this little pistol range. Tell me about the pistol range.
So years ago, we actually wanted to build a golf course on the property, and this area of hardwoods was cut out. And it's probably about 100-foot drop off cliff and has been sitting there for many years and just kind of became a great spot for a pistol range.
Mm-hmm.
So we started out with a enclosed shed with 5 bay windows across the front of it. So no matter what the weather was, you were out of the weather but shooting outside.
Yeah.
We have a heater in there, so even in the wintertime, you can turn the heater on and stay warm and enjoy your shooting. We've even had a ladies group that my grandmother was a part of.
Yeah.
I think she stopped at 90 years old, and she was able to go up there and shoot her 22. We had a lot of different targets for them to shoot and have fun with.
Yeah.
We updated the facility by putting an open air pavilion as well, and just continue to add more targets, different moving targets for you to have a little bit more fun with your shooting.
Mm-hmm.
When the rifle range is closed in the fall, we do have about 125 yards that you can sight in a gun for hunting season.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, the newest addition that we're working on is a walking trail through the woods where there'll be various stations for pistol shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit more than just standing in one spot
Yeah.
shooting your pistol.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? So for somebody who's an outdoors person, yes, you can go out and have fun, shotgun, golf with a shotgun type thing. If you have a rifle and you want to learn to practice or get some basic, ideas on how do I actually get good at this, you have a rifle range. You got this pistol range that gives you a safe space to go and plink or to take a lesson. And it's not just 10 or 15 yards and paper, right? There's steel reactive targets that are already there.
Yeah.
And then there's steel targets that are at 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And I think that far one may be that 125-ish.
It's about that, yeah.
Yeah, so you can plink that with your 22 rifle. You can, start taking your handgun and trying to shoot it at 80 yards. I had some guys up there the other day, maybe a month or so ago, and we said, well, that target's out there at 100, and said, well, you can't hit it with that handgun. And then all of a sudden I do, and they can't believe it, right? Which is just practice.
Little challenge.
Yeah, but it's a little challenge and it's fun. And continuing to develop, right, the property. There's a lot of piece there. New this last year was we set up a kind of a makeshift 3D archery course, which might be something we get into over time, right?
That's correct.
So it's basically something, if you want to be an outdoors person, if you want to get into the shooting sport, you should visit the facility, right? Because it's just really cool. So the other part besides the shooting piece is this hunting piece, which is kind of where Grandpa and Dad really started. And you have this pheasant hunting piece. So over this 600 acres, you can go pheasant hunting, and you can call and make a reservation, or you can join as a pheasant membership. But tell me a little bit about pheasant hunting at Vernon National.
So with the pheasant hunting, as you kind of mentioned, you can come out as what we call public walk-up hunt. You and your buddy could go out for a little guided hunt. You could go with your own dogs, or we do have multiple guides that we hire to come in and take you out with their dogs for hunting. We also offer a membership. So instead of just coming one day and booking one hunt, or instead of maybe driving out the Dakotas for a weekend,
right,
you can actually buy a whole season pass. Our biggest thing is we don't like to plant birds.
Right.
If anybody has ever thought or talked about paying for a hunt, and I don't care what species you're hunting, people hear canned. Whereas maybe it's a deer farm and they're just kind of releasing deer for somebody to shoot.
Yeah.
We try to avoid that. We want it to be wild-like hunting. Right. So for our members, we just populate the fields on a regular basis. Again, like the sporting clays, they come and go as they please.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I wanted to add to that, but
it's a really cool experience, right? For somebody who's done it. I can send an email or a text, or I can call and be like, hey, Jason, I want to come hunting on Saturday or Wednesday or Thursday. And you'll say, are you going to bring your own dog? Would you like us to, have a dog for you? Would you like to have a guide? And I can do it for a morning. I can do it for 2 or 3 days. As a public person, I can make an event. I can say I want to have an event so guys can have fun, and they'll help you through that. If I want to join, similar to the sporting clays, I can show up from dawn till dusk and go hunt pheasants whenever I decide to hunt pheasants, right? Because the field's there, which is really interesting, and it's a different type of event than saying, hey, let's go play golf, or let's go do something else. The other thing that I think is unique about Vernon is the events, right? So there's events that you can schedule around pheasant hunting. There's events that you can schedule around sporting clays, right? And I know that the events are a big focus of you and the team, right? You want to
Correct.
make it so that people are excited about coming there, and you want to design an experience that works for them, whether it's new shooters and five stand, whether it's let's take a handful of people and let's go pheasant hunting, whether we want breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whether we want lunch with it. You'll help make the experience that they want, right? Hamburgers and hot dogs, cut your own steaks, whatever you want to do. So it's a cool environment for that.
We definitely try to have some packages. Excuse me. We try to have some packages available for somebody that's just not sure what they want. They'll come in, pick the package, and go with it. But we really try to, like you mentioned, customize every outing to make sure that group of people are getting what they want and making sure they have a good time. As far as building the business, a company might bring in all their clients, they might bring in all their employees. So that person that brought them there is one customer. The other ones may become lifelong members.
Right.
So we want to make sure they have a good time and see everything that we have to offer, not just one day of fun, although we want that day to be great for them.
Sure.
But the more fun they have there and see that everything we have to offer, from the sporting clay shooting to the hunting to the rifle and pistol, even a golf range, if you want to come out and hit some golf balls after dinner. You never know what we're going to offer next, and we want to just keep increasing that for them.
Yeah. So it's really, there's packages so you can call up and say, hey, what can I do? But there's also a design your own experience, right? So
Absolutely.
you can have dinner, you can have lunch. It can be more formal, it can be less formal. You've had bachelor parties, you've had just random companies, you've had people have wedding receptions. Like there's all over the map, right? The types of things that you guys can offer.
Yeah, if you can think it up or we can think it up, we'll do it.
Yeah.
We're always trying to find new ways to help somebody else.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of new contacts over the years, whether they were customers ours or we met them outside the business. We've had wine tastings, we've had breweries. We've got a guy that comes up and rolls cigars for everybody. I mean, there's a little bit of everything to customize the event and have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. So, all right. So in addition, there's even more. Wait, there's more, right? There's this full stocked pro shop, right? And the pro shop, the way I would think of it, is like a golf pro shop, but really this is a pro shop for sporting clays, for hunting. So not only is there gear, but there's also firearms and firearms fitting and ammunition sales. And it's not just about the guns that are specific for there, but it's a full scale trade, buy, sell, barter, gun store.
Yeah, so we started out in the very beginning. We had a tiny little pro shop, and it was more about having some gear, having some shirts or swag, you might want to call it,
Yeah.
and a place for guys to come in, sign up, go and shoot.
Yeah.
But then, yes, we want to add gun sales. It started out very basic, sporting clays guns. That's the customers we had. That's what we were selling.
Yeah.
We also wanted to incorporate rental guns, whether it be for pheasant hunting or for sporting clay shooting. As we've talked a few times now, most people come out and they've never done the sport, so they don't have the equipment.
Right.
So we can provide them everything from a rental gun to the ammo to the ear and eye protection that's required, so that they can go out and at least try the sport. And then when they're done, we may have an option for them to get them started in their own firearm.
Right.
As we continued to build that, we ended up actually opening a satellite shop just to try to draw attention to other firearms. Not long ago, we actually closed the satellite shop, and pretty much all the customers from there followed. And it's allowed us to morph the shop at Vernon National into a full-fledged gun store.
Yeah.
We have a good assortment of pistols, handguns, revolvers, semi-automatics. We have a good selection now of rifles, whether you're just going to do some plinking on the range, maybe you're into some kind of long range precision shooting, or if you're just looking for a new hunting rifle. So we have a nice variety of all of those. I think our biggest item is our shotgun inventory. Some hunting models, but primarily sporting clays models.
Sure.
We try to do our best to always keep quality, but keep in mind that everybody has a different budget. So
Yeah.
we do have some of the, starter guns along the way, and then also a lot of higher end guns.
Yeah.
We do buy, sell, trade, or anything that you want to do. Anything from purchasing or trading one gun to a whole collection that might be passed down and, part of a state or something.
Yeah. So if you think about it, so you go there and you said a couple of things that were pretty interesting. So I go there and I don't own a firearm, but I want to be able to go do it. You'll help them do that, right? You can rent a gun. We'll get something that's fitted. We'll provide some ammo. We'll give them some basic lessons. We'll make sure they stay safe. If anybody who works at Vernon National doesn't feel like those folks have the ability to stay safe, we'll stay with them, right?
Correct.
And make sure that nobody gets hurt. If if somebody is unsafe, we'll let them know and say thanks for coming, right?
Yeah.
But you can go in there and you can rent a firearm, you can bring some buddies, you can bring your own if it as long as it's safe and it's legal and all that good stuff, you can use it there and plink. And then for the sportsman who just wants to get their son or daughter into plinking targets, or an avid hunter who wants to, hone their skills, like you have access to folks to do that. If something happens, or let me put it this way, not everything's brand new, right? You said budget, which is pretty cool. So it gives you the ability to get started. It gives you the ability to trade in and trade up, right? Not everybody
Correct.
goes and buys a $60,000 pickup truck for their first car, right? They start somewhere and work their way up. So it can support the hobbyist, it can support the gun enthusiast, it can support the person who's a collector of those firearms. And that's really neat. Plus, it has all the accessories that go with it, right? And if you don't have it in the store, you have the ability to order for folks.
Absolutely. We have direct connections with several different manufacturers, from Browning to Beretta to Benelli and a few others. And then we have multiple distributors we work with as well that handle all the brands I just mentioned and several others. On top of just the firearms, these distributors also carry any kind of optics that you may want, or
Right.
slings, or even, ammo pouches or bags,
Yeah.
shooting vest. So we try to keep a nice assortment in stock, but just like anything else, there's so much variety out there. Every choke that is made out there, there's hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yeah.
To carry them all would just be
doesn't work.
impossible.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can order anything that somebody's looking for to go with their new firearm, or maybe there's a firearm we don't have in stock that we can also get.
Yeah. And it's a full service FFL, right? So if somebody found something online, you might be able to get it for them. You'd be able to transfer it for them. You'd be able to, introduce them to the sport. I think what's important there is that people would realize that we're there to gain clients rather than customers, right? We want to make it a super pleasurable experience, so you want to come back. And if you're thinking about doing an event, if you're thinking about doing a shooting sport, if you're thinking about buying ammunition, if you're buying a hunting jacket, if you wanted to buy a rifle, you can come to you guys, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing that sets us apart, we have a lot of people that come to shoot their first round of sporting clays. They went to a local box store.
Yeah.
They come up to us with something that's of tactical nature for home defense, and they want to shoot sporting clays. And our biggest thing is, we'll always say that any shotgun can be used on the sporting clays course. It will shoot,
Sure.
but it's not meant for the sport. So, I think the biggest thing is people come in, we really question them a lot on what their purpose is. What do you want this firearm to do for you?
Right.
And get them into the right one.
Right.
I don't want to just sell somebody a gun. I give up on a lot of sales. Just one the other day that I could have sold the gun to the guy. I could have made the dollar, but it wasn't the right fit for him.
Right.
He wanted a sporting clays gun for deer hunting. It just wasn't practical.
Right.
I'd rather not sell it to him. I'd
Right.
rather find him what works for him.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're going to get is somebody with knowledge, making sure that you're taken care of correctly.
Yeah. And I think that's I've said this in some of my blogs. Like people want to look they want to feel looked after. They want to feel like the person who's standing across for them has their best interest in mind. So if you take Joe, Ellen, if you take Karen, if you take Darcy, yourself, Jared, Dad, Ron, they care about the people across across the counter from them. So they're really trying to fit you with the right experience. And it sounds a bit cliche, but the reality of it is I think you're playing the long game, right? Like Dad's there, he wants you and Jared who are playing a much bigger role now, and Darcy to continue this thing on. And the reality is you don't do that by not doing what's right for clients and customers, right? You want people to come back. You want them to be exposed to it. You want them to be safe. You want them to have a good time. You want it to be different. And when they're all said and done, you want them to friend you on Facebook and Instagram. You want them to think of you first when they have anything in that area.
Absolutely. I think our biggest focus is, on hospitality
Yeah.
and making sure everybody has a good time at our facility. I can't tell you the number of people that have either become pretty much family or close friends through this business. For many years now, even when I was just helping on the weekends, I made a lot of new friends. I've traveled with a lot of guys to sporting events to go shooting.
Yeah.
Another big proponent is the SCTP program. So I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, a local high school contacted us and said, "Hey, we're starting a team. We'd like to shoot there." I think half the parents now help out and volunteer on a regular basis at
They're
the club.
exposed to it. Yeah.
They've become close friends in many different ways. And again, as you mentioned, building for the future. If the youth don't get into the sport,
Right.
there is no future of the business.
Right.
So I've been fortunate to help coach and work with the kids. One good example is one of the young men that have come to us. I think he was 8th or 9th grade at the time, shot for 4 or 5 years, and is now off shooting in one of the top guys in his college. And another young man has gone off into the Marines, and it's been enjoyable to help them along that course.
Yeah.
And, sports bring out something in kids.
No doubt.
Structure is absolutely important to them.
Well, especially shooting sports, right? Like I played soccer growing up. My kids played soccer growing up. We all three of us played in college. The reality of it, you have to be disciplined to get up and go when you're not having fun. With a shooting sport, you have to mind your manners. You have to make sure that you're always safe 100% of the time. There is no making a mistake, right? In soccer, if I miss hit, it doesn't make a difference. You don't make a mistake with a firearm, right? You might miss the target, but you load when you load. You have good trigger discipline. You are aware of what's going on, right? You have good habits leading up to it, right? You're not going drinking the night before and then say, "Hey, I'm gonna go, smash some clays." So, like the shooting sports teach discipline, and that's kind of neat.
Yeah, so it was, very important to us when they came and wanted to start shooting at our club. We actually did not have a true trap field for them, but
Right.
that was what got us to build it.
Yeah.
Was for those kids. And as we started that part of the conversation is we want to continue to grow the business. So whether it's teaching kids to shoot and getting them involved, taking great care of a customer that walks in the door and making sure that they're satisfied and going out and telling their friends that, hey, that family up there just took good care of me.
Right.
That's very important to us to take care of everybody, keep them coming back.
No doubt. I think some of the most fun times I've had there is when I've had friends or I've gone, and sometimes I like competing and sometimes I like going just breaking clays or pinging targets. But there's two events that I want to talk about which I think are super fun. So one of them is the Flurry events, okay? So you guys set these up. Oftentimes they're in the winter, right? So the weather is never like ideal. There's been lots of people who shoot it, but tell me about these random Flurry events. What are they?
So the Flurry events, back in the day when we just had the 5 stand, if you shot around a 5 stand, or multiple ones every week, it kind of got boring after a little while.
Yeah.
So we always came up with different games.
Yes.
Make it a little more interesting. Throw a dollar on the line for fun. And that's kind of where that came from. And we've been doing it for years. And it's called the Flurry Shoot. So let's do it when the flurries are flying. So we do have one coming up on New Year's Day.
Yep.
That one we've done for many years. And then usually Super Bowl Sunday will be our next one, and wherever else we can fit one in. So a Flurry Shoot, rather than just going out and shooting your own targets, you actually get a partner. And we have a whole program system a program that goes into our controllers. There'll be 3 machines throwing targets, anywhere from 30 to 50 targets in less than a minute and a half. So it becomes a fun, competitive team event.
Yeah.
Everybody's there cheering each other on or maybe heckling them.
No doubt. There's definitely a lot of heckling.
It's all about you and your partner getting in sync,
Yeah.
talking. Just like any other sport out there, you got to communicate. And so I'm shooting. If you're my partner, you're reloading.
Yeah.
When you're done reloading, you're shooting, and I'm switching over.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, so imagine these 2 stations, right? You got these stations there, and in front of you somewhere, there's these targets, and you guys say ready, and both of these guys are loaded. And there might be 1 target in the air, there might be 3 targets in the air, right? There might be 4 targets in the air, there might be no targets in the air. But what ends up happening is you don't want to both shoot at the same one, and then if somebody misses it, the other guy wants to help pick it up, or the other girl. So it's this fun banter back and forth. And at the end of the second or third rounds, you get lots of shooting, right? You shoot for maybe 3 rounds at 4 or 5 minutes at a time, but you're cold and there's lots of shots, right? So you're shooting hundreds of shots, which is fun. And the person who misses the least, right, wins. The team who does that. And there's hot dogs and there's coffee and there's chili, and it's just a way to kind of kill a Sunday outside shooting, just kind of a fun event, right?
It's, for years we've always talked about when we had the 5 stand only, you went to one spot, we had hamburgers, hot dogs, a grill going, a fire. My grandfather would be there, giving everybody a hard time. But it was the camaraderie.
Yeah.
It was being in a group. Sporting clays is still my favorite, but often you're in a group of maybe 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And when you come back to the clubhouse, you're back in a group. But at the Flurry Shoot, it's all about everybody being together, having a good time, and the camaraderie.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, there's 20, 30, 40, 50 people sometimes sitting around watching, like you said, heckling, all of that type of stuff, and it's fun. I've shot a handful of them. I've shot several of them with a partner. And if I'm with him, he's on my side, and if I'm not with him, he's heckling me, right?
Absolutely.
But it's good fun to make that happen. So that's a cool event that, if you get on the mailing list and you see that type of stuff go out through Facebook, that anybody can sign up for. You show up, you pay a nominal fee to shoot all the birds that you have, plus have access to the food, and it's a cool way to spend 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday.
Yeah, and it's, we try to do it on certain days that most people are available.
Right.
New Year's Days, most people's going to have the day off.
Yeah.
They can come out, nice way to ring in the new year with some friends and family and have a good time.
Yeah. So the other one that I think is unique is the tower shoots. So you got in the fall, we got pheasant hunting, right? And we're populating this 400, 500, 600 acres so the members can come in and hunt, and you have this tower shoot that goes on where you guys are releasing a whole bunch of birds, and the whole idea is release all of these birds into the area. Folks have the opportunity to shoot some of these birds as they're kind of getting released, and which is kind of fun because you don't know what happens when you release a bird. You don't know where it's going, right?
No, these are wild birds.
Right.
I have released many of them over the years, and you can try to toss them one direction. We've tried many things over the years through throwing them down chutes, and no matter what you do, they're all going to fly a different pattern.
Right.
The weather or the wind, things like that can play a part. But yeah, so normally we will throw anywhere from 600 to 1,000 birds in one day.
Which is amazing. Right?
It's great. I mean, it populates the grounds for the members and the people that are a part of the tower shoot. Again, it goes back to that camaraderie.
Yeah.
They're, with a couple buddies shooting. Instead of just a clay disc, it's, pheasants.
Yep.
We have a dog handler with each group. So somebody with a trained retrieving dog will be there. They're volunteering their time because they're getting to work their dog, which is their passion.
Right.
They're going to collect those birds up throughout the day. We'll have them clean, packaged, and ready for people to take home. So I've never wanted to take a clay disc home and eat it, but
No.
at the end of the tower
Yeah,
shoot,
you get to
having
do
a
it.
little pheasant for dinner is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Along the way, we also stop about halfway through the event. We got a little cabin up on the hill. We've got somebody in there serving you maybe some soup or steak or sausage bread,
Right.
maybe some meatballs and
Yeah,
sandwiches. And
exactly.
yes, everything seems to revolve around food with
It
us.
does.
Everybody wants to have a good meal. So it's a long day. And then we finish it up with a cleanup hunt, is what we call it.
Yeah.
So typically about 50% of the birds that we release end up on the property. Now people can get with those guides and their dogs and actually go for
hunting.
a true hunt.
Which is kind of neat, right? And again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to provide an experience that's unique and different. So for those folks who don't know of Vernon National Shooting Preserve, it's this family-owned place that not only is a competitive sporting clays, which, to be honest, I think the sporting I've shot a bunch of different sporting clay places. It's one of the best facilities around. I know that sounds a little cliche, but it is. It's cool. The two courses are great. The pistol and rifle range just adds something cool to it. The pheasant hunting in the fall is really amazing, right? Because you have the ability to go do it. I mean, you could call Darcy up today. Today is Monday, right? So if you said, "Hey, I'd like to come hunt pheasants. I've got two guys. I'd like to have 5 birds each, and I'd like to come on Thursday, and I need a dog handler." You guys would set it up. She'd say, "Sure. What
We
time do you
put
want
it
to be
together
here?"
in a heartbeat.
Right, which is pretty amazing. You don't know that is out there. So help me understand hunting wild pheasants on public land compared to hunting at a preserve. If I'm a regular person, do I need training? Do I need a license? What do I need to hunt there?
I think one of the biggest benefits to hunting on the preserve is going to be one, you don't need a hunting license. So you may be traveling, maybe here for a business conference from out of state.
Into town visiting or something. Yeah.
You wouldn't have to go and buy a local license. Maybe you have it in your home state, but not here. So you're not going to have to do that. We have guides with their own dogs. Not everybody has the time to work on a trained dog.
Sure.
Locally, you don't have many opportunities to train a dog with live birds. So the fact that we have guides that know what they're doing, have been doing it for years with quality trained dogs,
Yeah.
they help your experience.
No doubt.
It's been nice that we can also facilitate handicapped situations. Whether it's somebody possibly in a wheelchair, or maybe you want to take your grandfather who can't really walk the fields like he used to. We can make accommodations for that. Since we're releasing the birds, as I mentioned, we like to keep it wild-like. Let the birds just be out there on their own, mingling around.
Right.
But in a special situation, we have a way to kind of plant the bird so that maybe somebody doesn't have to travel as far. We know they're there.
Right. Or in that general vicinity.
Correct.
Yeah. Which is kind of neat. Yeah, I think it's such an amazing family business. I look at it a decade ago, I didn't even know that type of stuff existed. And now I look at it and say, I don't know, my life would be different if it didn't exist. Like it's such a cool place with a good family. And now when I travel, now that I know that stuff's out there, every now and then I'll see something in another state and be like, oh, there's another one of those. But I don't think a lot of people even know like where you are. Like where are you? Where is Vernon National Shooting Preserve?
So good and bad, we're in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Yeah, which is probably why you can do this.
Yeah, it helps us do what we do. We don't have a lot of outside influence that, maybe protesting in the business or anything like that. But on the other hand, we don't have any drive-by traffic.
Right.
So you're not on a main strip somewhere is getting attention from your sign being by the road or anything like that. So we're actually in Vernon Center.
Yep.
Even though we're out in the middle of the back roads, it is pretty easy to get to.
It is.
From many different locations. From Syracuse, I would say we're about a half hour, 45 minutes. The New York State Thruway is about 10, 15 minutes away. And I think one of the biggest bonuses is the Turning Stone Casino. I don't know if I'm allowed to put that out there, but,
It's just a place. People know it exists.
Yeah, I mean, You have everything that you could want from accommodations to gaming to shows and nightlife over there. And it's only about 10 minutes away. So, we've hosted a lot of people that, they want to hunt in the morning, but what do they do the rest of the day and stay
Yeah.
for 3, 4 days? So, you also have Vernon Downs, a harness track, right down the street from us.
Hmm.
So it's been a very big bonus to have those items right there.
Yeah.
We also host the New York State Sporting Clays Championship for the last 3, 4 years. And one of the big components to those big events is a place for people to stay. So having those resorts right close to us
Right.
gives all the accommodations that you need.
Yeah. And, your team, while you don't work directly with Vernon Downs or the casino, you know people there, right? So,
Yes.
if somebody comes in and says, I'd really like to play golf and shoot pheasants, it's like, great. Well, well, that's a bad example because it's probably not the right weather. I want to shoot sporting clays and then I'd like to go play golf. Well, you guys can help them with that, right?
Yes. Yeah, they've sent a lot of people to us.
Yeah.
Whenever we're doing large events, we can usually get a block of rooms because obviously they know if our people are staying with them, they're,
Yeah.
you know, hitting their restaurants and casino floors. And
Right. It's good synergy there.
yes,
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I've always been, Hunt Stock was there this year, and I went there and shot my bow a little bit and saw some folks. I've met some really neat people, all walks of life, right? Like
every bit of them. Yeah.
every bit. I mean, you see some people who are ultra wealthy and super quote unquote successful to the average guy, the guy down the road, that shows up there and has a good time. And I think that's what's cool about it, right? It doesn't matter how you dress or how wealthy you are or how educated you are or how often you've pulled the trigger. You're kind of welcome there and you kind of just fit in.
Yeah, we've always been told that most people walk in and they feel like they're treated like family.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a good way. There's somebody walks in the door, the first thing we want to do is greet them and
Yeah.
make sure that they have a good time. And, everybody in my family, I think, feels the same that I don't care where you're from.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do for a living. You're here to have a good time, and I want
Right.
to make sure that you have a good time in my place.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is something to this idea of wanting to be there for the next generation, right? So your daughter's shot growing up. Jason or Jared's son uses it a lot. Like you said, we're involved with the local trap team, so there's kids around there. There's people who come and maybe don't shoot that much, but they just want to be around the guys or around the people, and that says a lot, right? So you can get a good meal, you can have some fun there. I mean, it's a cool place to hang out.
And, to add into some of those groups, it's becoming a very growing area for women for something to do.
The girls with guns.
Girls with Guns. We have a group. It was a national group, but I think part of it was changing names. But girls really into shooting, and it started out as just a few of them.
Grits, right? That's what it's
Grits
called.
was the name, but I think that's going away or can't be used. But
Yeah.
we have a core group of ladies that have been coming to our club for several years now, and they're always promoting for ladies to come out to a shooting range. It can be scary.
Sure.
And I've heard it from many of them. One-on-one lesson, they're fine, but to go out there and there's 30 guys watching them shoot, they don't care
Makes them
for.
nervous. Yeah.
So once a month, the Grits girls get together and they accept any new members. Anybody that shows up that hasn't shot, they'll go with an instructor,
Yep.
but they'll be with other ladies that want to try it out.
Yeah. Which is great, right? Because realistically, if somebody said, "Well, I think I'd like to do that," but if it's, let's be honest, if there's a whole bunch of 6 foot, 250 pound guys, shooting, the average lady who's never done it isn't going to like show up and be like, "This is a comfortable place for me to try this."
Absolutely not.
Right. So you want to be able to accommodate that. And I think that's really cool. And we've always found it. My wife and my kids have shot there over the years. I've probably obviously shot the most, but just being able to bring them up there and say, let's go ping targets, let's go break clays, take take advantage of some of the events. I've booked events there, right? I've had events for clients. I've had events for with vendors, and it's always been top draw, right? They've always done a really good job. If you can tell them what you want, they'll deliver, right? You guys will do everything you can to make it happen. You can't control the weather. Sometimes it's too hot. Sometimes it's too cold. Sometimes it's too rainy. But the reality of it is, if everybody comes with a good attitude, they'll leave having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, if you come in and you're in a bad mood, we can probably try to change that. But if you come in with a positive attitude, and that's something I've always kind of preached when I'm teaching out on the course, somebody walks up and says, I can't do this, you're probably not going to be able
Probably
to.
can't.
But
Yeah.
if you're willing to try and make an effort and have a good time, you will.
Yeah.
There's many different ways. We want you to break the targets. We're going to help you do that.
Right.
I've yet to have a student not break some targets.
Sure.
Some have been more challenging than others, obviously,
Yeah.
but everybody walks away having a little bit of fun.
Well, and not to belabor this point, but some people just think, well, it's easy, right? Like, because they see it in the movies. And shooting well and safely takes time and skill and effort. I mean, I remember getting a gun fitted the first time, and I'm like, it doesn't make any difference. It makes a huge difference, right? Understanding how to shoulder it, understanding how to stand, understanding the movement of it, understanding the safety of it, the concentration, like that's all important. So it's like saying, well, golf is easy, and then you know your first 3 shots might be great, and then your next one you skull into the woods. It's like, well, I thought it was super easy. Same thing, right? With
Absolutely. We have a lot of people come in, and I have always said to all my students, gun fit and feel is probably more important than anything, because if it doesn't fit you and you don't have the right sight picture, you're not aiming correctly at the target.
right.
So yeah, that's very important to get you set up correctly. If you're holding the gun incorrectly, one of my biggest concern, especially with somebody that might be on the smaller size with a larger gun, if you're not holding it correctly, it's going to beat you up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some people, they've seen the video, somebody holding a gun incorrectly, and it knocks them on their
over
butt.
backwards or something like that.
Everybody's always worried it's going to hurt, but if done correctly, with the right gun and the right ammo fit for that person, it's nothing but a little push of your shoulder.
No, it's fine. I mean, you know, we could do a whole other one on fit feel, on caliber, and on ammo choice, but some ammo is sharper than other ammo, right? And we can
Correct.
talk about dram, and we can talk about weight. And then the gun fit, you see those people who don't necessarily put it all the way back on their shoulder. When they pull the trigger, the gun's going to your shoulder. It's just a
Yes.
matter whether it's there or not. You see people who bring their face to the gun, and you see people who bring the gun to their face, right? And there's a big difference, right? If you're leaning over sideways and your head's cockeyed and your face isn't right there and you pull the trigger, you might be like, ow, this hurts. Whereas if somebody teaches you to get it in the proper position, the weight is going straight backwards. So if you're leaning into it in there, you can kind of take it. And if you have the proper gauge and the proper ammo, and not all ammo is exactly the same, right? You can't just say, well, I shot a 12 gauge. It's like, well, what did you shoot? Did you shoot
Correct.
slugs or nines or sevens? And was it 3.5 dram or was it 2 dram? Like what, how heavy is it? And then you start getting into this idea of choke size and pattern and distance and movement and how fast is it going. And it's a cool sport to kind of do, either as the hobbyist, just going out there and plinking targets a couple times a year, or something that says, hey man, I kind of like to get good at it. It's just like golf, right? Like you can go out there and shoot 18 over par and be like, I had a great day, or you can go out there and shoot 8 over par and said, I have an awful day. Same thing with sporting clays.
Absolutely. I mean, and everywhere you go, the target setter can make the targets fun and easy.
Or super hard.
Super hard. I've been to some big events where it's a very tough course and challenging, and my score is much different than when I'm at my home course with some what I'll call corporate targets.
Right.
And a lot of that, like you mentioned, there's so many variations in shot patterns and different ammos, and you learn more of that as you go on. To go out and shoot a corporate course, we try to keep it fun and light. Some flat going away, coming in targets, so that the guys that
Predictable. Yeah.
that if you haven't shot much, you'll get you breaking them quick.
Right.
And then as you decide to get into the sport, you can progress through all those different little pieces that you just mentioned. all the way up to different methods of shooting the targets.
Right.
Whether you're going to do a sustain lead or you're going to do a pass through or a move in front, there's lots of different ways to shoot various targets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a great sport. It's a great place. It's a place that I wish was closer to my house, so I can get there all the time. It's probably better it's not closer to my house. It's 35, 40 minutes over the hill, and if it was like 10 minutes over the hill, I think I'd probably live there, which would be bad.
And it's amazing. I mean, we have people that are 2 minutes away, and yeah, they probably are there more often. But we do have a lot of couples, even a couple couples that come out of Canada
Right.
that travel down, make a weekend of it.
Hmm.
They've had a great time at whether it was an event with us or
Yeah.
just saw us on the internet and swung by and the whole accommodation thing. You want to come for the weekend, bring your camper. We've got places that you can park your camper, turn your generator on, fill your water tank, and then have a good weekend.
Yeah, which is kind of neat. I mean, it's really there for anybody who's an outdoor enthusiast who likes shooting sports. It's a place that you got to, if you've never been there, you got to visit it. Certainly.
Absolutely. And we're constantly trying to think of what next.
Yeah.
What can we do to add something else that everybody's going to enjoy? A few ideas. We do want to put some camper hookups in, some small cabins for that out of town guy that wants to come for a weekend
Right.
and would rather stay right there. The archery course that you mentioned, we kind of had a startup one yet last year,
Just to see. Yep.
just to see how it goes. So we may improve upon that. And, you never know what else you might find up there.
You never know. Because I know it, so you guys have been wholesalers for safes. Now now you rep like electric bikes. You've got an estate sale where you've got lots of fishing equipment in there now and lures and reels. So it's a team dedicated to outdoors, shooting sports as well as hunting, but you're also someone that's supporting that community, right? If something happens, God forbid, somebody's got a big collection, you're there to help that person, whether it's move it to the next generation, take it and monetize it for the people who were there and get it to the people who really like it, which is really cool because it serves all needs, right? The kid who's trying to get into it, or honestly the widow who's trying to figure out how do I unwind this.
Absolutely. There's so many different ways that we can help you out with different, whether it's just needing to know the process to get
Yeah.
your first pistol permit. We hold pistol permit classes right there at the shop.
Yeah.
Laws to ship guns to another country or, another state. I mean, we facilitate just about any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. What's the future hold? What's the next 5-10 years for Vernon National Shooting Preserve?
I think we just got to get a few more golf memberships from my father so that he can go and enjoy himself
Okay.
and, stay out of our business and let us take
Yeah.
over. I think my brother Jared and I, were very excited to both be working together.
Yeah.
After years of being apart from the business. And I've got to give credit to Darcy. My father and I ran this as a side gig for many years. He was farming. I was in my career, just doing it on the side for fun.
Yeah.
She really came in and made the business grow
Yeah.
from getting the corporate stuff coming in, getting the gun sales going. But as my father goes to travel, she's probably going to want to travel with him too.
No doubt.
I look forward to, I watched my father for many years take over the business from his father. And
Right.
his father was there right up until last year. And
Yeah.
being a part of it and having a place to go. And, there's that aspect of it, continue to grow the business, letting my father enjoy his life,
Yeah.
growing some different events. I am planning some kind of family fun day music festival for this summer or for next summer. Don't have the details on it yet. It's mostly in my brain, but I got
Yeah.
the green light to go ahead with it. And,
Yep.
from everything we've done, I've got several contacts to go talk to. And the other thing I guess I'll bring up is a new property. We've actually working on purchasing a new property that is going to offer even more to what we have. It's another 400 acres, waterfowl, turkey hunting, deer hunting, lots of options to grow in that new location as well.
Yeah, which is cool. Always looking for the next thing that people may enjoy. So to continue to do that is Ron's going to be there hopefully for a very long time. And his role may change as time goes on a little bit. But you and your brother Jared are really trying to keep the history and the tradition that you have, but continue to roll it forward and continue to grow it and be there for the people in the community locally, but also the people who love to travel, who are into the shooting sports.
Yeah, I mean, my kids haven't been a big part of the business at this time. I do hope that maybe someday down the road that
Yeah,
one of them wants to join in and continue the legacy of the place. I mean, I remember as a little kid going up there when it was a active farm
yeah,
with my grandfather. They've been coming to the place with their grandfather for shooting and hunting.
right.
I'd like to see them pass that down to multiple generations in the future.
Yeah, yeah, that would be really neat. Yeah, it's such a great place. I appreciate it. We spent a bunch of time together already, believe it or not.
Figured it's probably been a while.
Yeah, it goes by super fast, and I'm super glad that he came in and spent a little time with me. And we got to do it again as things go on, and keep doing that. I know that the folks over there are passionate about what they do. Like you guys are passionate what you do. It's a great family, and it's just something that if you haven't experienced it, you should go over and try it.
It has been a dream of mine, as I mentioned earlier, to go to this business every day
Yeah,
as my new career in life. It doesn't feel like I work every day.
yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I'm
The
passionate
old
about
cliche,
it.
right?
Yeah,
No.
if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
that's how I feel at this point with the
yeah.
business.
I was there Saturday real quick for the one of the Christmas sale things, and I walk around, and not only is there a lot of stuff there that I'm interested in, but there's people there in holiday sweaters, and they're excited about and they're still working on a Saturday, but the reality of it is, like, you like what you do, you like engaging with people, you like talking shooting sports and hunting, and it's a safe place for people with similar ideas and values to get together. So that's cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's been a good chat.
it has been. All right, man.